Hey, Justin. Just wanted to give you a basic idea and kind of how automation works in my software, just so you have an idea. So, for example, like if I want to add some water, um, what I can do, I just wonder why. So when I want to add some water, um, I basically there's a lot of automation built into doing a lot of this stuff. So, like let's just random. I'm just gonna randomly put a water line here, right? So I can put this water line here, right? And then what I can even do is I can tell, okay, I want the same location but mirrored about the center of this block, which happens to be this line that it automatically gives me, right? And then from there I can do things like, you know, uh, let's add uh, let's add another line. Let's just say here, and another line, say here, right? And then I can go in here and say, okay, well, let's trim this line to here, right? And we'll trim this line, a little bit above. And then maybe this line, see that line already trimmed itself to here. It kind of understood, okay, go to the last line. And this one here, I'll trim equal to the same as this one, right? And then I can let's add a counter bore and a connector to this, right? And then it'll put that in automatically. And then let's maybe mirror that over about there, that kind of stuff. So, there's kind of, a circuit in there. Obviously, this is just super rough, but, um, and then if I want to add some baffles, for example, I can go ahead and let's place these baffles here. And then, maybe I want the same baffles mirrored about the center of this block. It mirrors them over. And it, takes care of all the heights automatically and stuff like that. Now I could edit these. Like I can say, okay, you don't actually edit the length. You tell it how far you want it to be from stuff. So like if I'm like trying to squeeze in a tower, I can say closer on the side wall, but keep the tip a certain distance, and it'll all change automatically. I can tell it to do just the one baffle. I can have it do all the baffles, whatever, stuff like that. I can select specific ones. So that's kind of like how that works and stuff. And then I can copy that and for whatnot. And then same thing with like ejector pins. If I want to add ejector pins, it's just like a click and place. I'll put one really close here, right? Just on purpose here. It's not even in the parts in parting line, but that's okay. And then right, so it's automatically trimming it. And if I put it like, if there's contour, it automatically trims to the contour and all that stuff. So like, the pin is completely done. I should turn on the there we go, right? So and they're all like kind of like automatically built with the proper plate, right? So like if I turn on my retainer plate, the components and that stuff is there. Obviously, that would be no good, but I can check all these interferences for this stuff, right? So which I'll show you in a sec too. So it's like, very automatic, and I can turn off the components, I can turn the holes off so I only see the plates, things like that. And if I go to like like let's say like if you're asking me if I could take your stuff and just put it in my design, I have to like holes and stuff. I have to kind of trace what you did. So like if you move water lines, um, I basically then like pull up that core block that I had. And let's say you move this water line 1/8 of an inch, then it's just a matter of me grabbing the water lines as well, right? And then, tell it to move the 1/8 of an inch. Uh, this is clicked on, so it'll know to move the baffles with it automatically. But if I don't want to move the baffles, I can uncheck it and it won't move the baffles. And then everything moves that 1/8 of an inch, and the heights of the baffles fix themselves and things like that accordingly. So, that's kind of how I have to do with that stuff. But like if you gave me, for example, like this top clamp plate, just the plate, no holes or anything. And let's say you made the plate bigger or smaller or something, and then I could actually do what's called a plate swap. Like say, okay, swap this solid with this solid, and it'll swap the plate in. And then like all the engraving you see here and these lift holes would know to move with it automatically, and the materialist would be up to date. So there's stuff like that I can do. But like the holes and stuff have to really be my software in order to utilize everything. Even the colors, like which I have some buttoning up to do with your config. I've just been too busy, but I configure all these holes, colors, and then automatically it puts those colors in for me to your RGB values. But I do have some fine tuning to do still with it to get it kind of right. Um, and then there's obviously adding screws kind of works that way. And I have a lot of things that are kind of built in, like uh, like catalog stuff that I have. So when I bring in, for example, shot counter, the screws are in with it, and the holes get automatically applied and all that kind of stuff. So There's a lot of automation with all that kind of stuff for changes and stuff. But even like if I want to add like FCS, that's even built in here. So I have your palettes built into the absolute tool config that I have. So it's config specific to your guys' uh, standards. And then it gives me like an idea. Hey, here's an idea of where we can place them, you know, and I can go ahead and I can click on say like those 6, and maybe I want these ones on the side and these ones here. And it does a pretty good job trying to avoid, it tries really hard to avoid holes automatically. You could actually give it like criteria of priorities, and it'll try to avoid that based on those priorities. And then, so if I'm happy with the ones I select, I just say okay, and it puts the FCS in there, and then so then the FCS are kind of done, and I can move them pretty easily too. So you know, if like let's say I want to go in a little bit here, I can do that, and then I can grab these two here, and it does the same thing. And see, it grabs these two here. If this was like one block on center, it's only moving the 2 because it's a 2-shot, so you have the 2 blocks that are out of like off of center. But if it was on center, it would actually move the 4 because the 4 would be the equal distance off 0. And yeah, and then you know once I'm happy with it, I just say okay, and it puts them in. So and I can go back at any time, obviously, and change them the same way and stuff. So you know little things like that, and then there's like automation, like and anything like I said, anything that I'm putting in here right now, the material is just being built automatically. And then I can do like checks to things if I want to. So like for example, with this here, I can say um, interference checker, and let's check like let's say smart lines, which is all your water lines and grease lines, air lines, that kind of stuff. And then let's just say to all holes, and you know for you guys, let's say 3/8 of an inch away or something. Um, it's just set to quarter because it's kind of what most of my customers go to. And then see, it shows me anywhere that there's an issue, right? So I can see, and it highlights them, right? So it shows me like the baffle hole, but it also shows me the thread distance too. So I can see that I need to move this. Obviously, this one's no good because it's not even in part, but that doesn't matter here. So I can go ahead and move it. And then once I've moved it, I can go ahead and just tell it to recheck, right? And now it says no further interferences exist. So that checks like all my water at all the holes. And then, but I can also check like, um, I can check the water lines to like plate faces and to part faces separately, and it'll let me know how far I am away from all those kinds of things. The only thing I can't do is I can't check like just the parallel that you guys have, so that's going to take I'll have to do a little bit of manual stuff with that. Um, but yeah, so it kind of automates a lot of that stuff, and I can build like preset ones. You know, so like the ejector box, I have this one that I run for my ejector box, and it's going to check for anything in the ejector box that shouldn't be hitting that is, like I said, those ejector pins and stuff that were hitting the pillar supports, right? So you can see there's these here. So like I can say, okay, well, let's move these. I'll say by group, and that'll move the 2 that are the same to keep them the same amount apart. And then right, and I'll move this one over, let's just say, right? And then I can do the same thing. I can run a recheck, and no further interferences exist. So like there's a lot of automation for stuff like that in here. It allows me to make changes, usually in most cases pretty quick. So anyways, just wanted you to see that and kind of having a bit of an idea what I mean by like I lose my automation if I was to take all your stuff in. Uh, and it just becomes very difficult to make changes. You see how easy I can move water lines around and stuff. A lot of that stuff will go away. Even angles, like if I wanted to change this this water line to be on like an angle. See, it gives me like all the locations to tip from. So maybe I want to hold this. I can tip just from there, let's say 15 degrees, right? And then I can easily take this and trim it to here, right? So, you know, it's very, very easy. So just so you have an idea, and it puts spot face automatically and all that stuff too. So just so you know, thanks.